If it wasn't for Coach Gerber, I don't know where I'll be today. He wasn't just my coach, he's my friend, my father, even though I had a father, he changed my life. I'm from Rock Island, the west end of Rock Island. I did things we did down there. You know what I'm saying? I was involved in a lot of stuff that, I shouldn't have been, but I got stirred in the right direction by a guy that cared about me.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling.
I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
You're listening to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, presented by Spartan Combat. This is Ryan Warner, your host, coming to you from the birthplace of the baby back rib, Chicago IL. Hope you're doing great today, guys. My guest today is an Illinois legend, Tim Wright. Tim Wright was the first 4-time NCAA champion of any sport. He won 4 NCAA Division II titles in the late 80s, way before Pat Smith did it. Now, granted, there were Division II titles for Southern Illinois, but no doubt Tim Wright is one of the great wrestlers of all time. When he was in high school, he was a 2-time state champion, was named Mr. Illinois Wrestler his senior year, and this guy is just, like I said, one of the greats to ever come through the state. I'm honored to have him on. We're actually from the same hometown area, and so we throw a couple references to the Quad Cities, which is where I was born and raised and where Tim went to high school. So enjoy this episode, folks. Fan of the week goes to my man Lee Cothran. Was great to see you at the Olympic trials. He's a diehard Cowboy fan, and we just really appreciate the support. Thank you, Lee. And that's it, folks. Let's get to the interview with the great Tim Wright. Hey, guys, this episode, as well as every episode, is brought to you by Spartan Combat. They're hosting a national tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, May 20th through the 23rd. All styles will be competing. Check it out now at SpartanCombat.com. Tim Wright, welcome to the podcast, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Man, you are a name where if you grew up where I grew up in the Quad Cities, the name Tim Wright was legendary. And then, as I went through wrestling, I learned that you were the first 4-time Division II champ ever. But I got to say, the last time we spoke, you told me a disturbing stat is that you didn't wrestle until high school, man. Tell me how you got into the sport.
Well, I started in 7th grade. Just my older brother wrestled a little bit. He wrestled, but he didn't wrestle. He wrestled, but I never did, and I played basketball. I went out for basketball, and I got overlooked in the basketball practice, and so the coaches wouldn't play me because I was the shortest guy on the team. And so one day I went to the wrestling room just because I was mad about basketball practice, and went in there and started practicing, learned a little bit about wrestling, and then the coach put me out there with a guy by the name of Ronald McBride. He was a year older, and he was one of the better guys on the team the year before. And he put us out there in one-on-one, and I took him down right away. And they were like, whoa. And they said, go again. I took him down again. And then they said, one more time. I took him down 3 times in a row. They said, Ronald had only lost like 2 matches the year before. And they were like, whoa, how long you been wrestling? I was like, I've never wrestled a day in my life. Just other than in the streets, other than in the streets, just playing around with the brothers or friends, just wrestling around. But I didn't know anything about wrestling, I was always a pretty good athlete. The teachers always tell me to play basketball, baseball, whatever sport we was playing. I was always one of the better players, but I was just super little, small. So they said, well, you did a great job today, man. We'll see you tomorrow. I said, nah, I won't be here tomorrow. I'll play basketball. I just came in here to see what was going on. And they was like, no, you need to be here in this wrestling room. And I was like, nah, I'll be back at basketball practice. So to cut the story shorter, I went back to basketball. Then they had the cuts a couple of days later. They cut me from the basketball program. So I was mad about that. I go back to the wrestling room. And come to find out days later, the wrestling coach told the basketball coach to cut me. So I ended up in the wrestling room. That was how that story kind of went.
And so how outside of the regular season, how much like off-season training were you doing at this time? Or is it only 3 months a year for you?
It was only during wrestling season for me. I didn't wrestle most, like now, I have an academy. You have academy. That you can get a coach to coach you out of season. Back when I was wrestling, we didn't have any of that. We'd wrestle some tournaments during the summertime, but when I first started, like 7th, 8th, 9th grade, I didn't wrestle any summer tournaments. I wrestled doing school wrestling, and that was it. Didn't practice, didn't drill, didn't do anything. When the season came back around again, my 8th grade year, I wrestled again during the season. After the season was over with, that was it. Then my 9th grade year, I wrestled during the season. After the season's over, that was it. And then my coach Gerber at that time, just discovered me. And he was like, hey, I want to take you to this tournament. But the tournament was just a local, I think it was out at, one of the little small towns outside of Rock Island. It wasn't no Chicago or Peoria or no big tournament of Springfield, nowhere. Just a nice little local tournament, maybe Peoria, I think it was. Took me to the tournament, and I won the tournament, and he was like, just telling me about, how good a wrestler I could be if I, took my time and really tried to learn the sport. Mostly to me, it was like, yeah, okay, whatever, I was just having fun. To me, wrestling was, I get 3 minutes to beat this guy up and not get in trouble for it. That's how it was for me. And it was just fun, but I did start learning technique during that time. I think I had maybe a double leg, double underhook. I had fireman's carry, and I had a shuck. Those were my only 4 moves. So,
man.
Yeah.
When did you start taking it seriously where you're like, man, I could go to college for this?
Oh, that was way later, man. That was after my state title. I thought about that because the funny part about it is, I'm going to tell you how green I was to wrestling. I walked out in the state finals and they had all the lights out and the flashes were going and the lights were flashing. And I was like, yo, coach, this is cool. It's cool. He was like, do you know where you're at? I said, state tournament. He said, you're in the state finals. You win this match, you're number 1 in the state of Illinois. And I was like, yeah? He was like, yeah. I was like, he said, you didn't. I said, well, you said state tournament, but I just didn't know. That was my sophomore year. And so I lost in the finals at the state tournament. I was down 8-0 in the first period. I ended up losing 10-9. So I came back, and had the refs made some better calls, I would have won in overtime. But it was against me at that time. So, but yeah, that's how green I was to it. I'm in the state finals, didn't realize it till I walked out there. So it was.
The crazy thing is that back then Illinois was only 2 divisions, and
correct.
Sophomores, that was the first year they were eligible. So you made it to the state finals in one of the toughest divisions in the country as a sophomore, and didn't really appreciate the pressure of it. And so you were probably wrestling loose that whole weekend. I just
was out there. I always had the thing. I always had the confidence that, this guy can't beat me, and I had natural. I was pretty much of a natural. I must admit it. I didn't realize it. Coach told me that, hey, you're just a natural, your balance, your speed, your timing, and he showed me a few things that would help me. And I always went over, if I drilled something, I went over it again and again and again until I had it right. Then I had a shuck and a snap down, and I had a fireman's carry outside swing on a double. but I didn't have a whole lot of. I wasn't no great rider on top. I knew I got the bottom because I was so fast with a stand up. I had a stand up and I would get up, get away. But it was still a lot about my sophomore year that I really didn't know about wrestling. I was just out there having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when did you start the routine where you would run up the hill from 11th Street up, and that's how you knew you were in shape?
I started doing that my junior year. The summer of gonna be where I was gonna be a junior. When I realized what state was, I would start working out before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
Before the season started, so I ran a lot of stairs, ran hills, did a lot of push-ups and pull-ups. Never no weightlifting, mostly push-ups and pull-ups. You know, I held the record at Rocky for most pull-ups and the most push-ups for a long time. It may still be there. One time a guy told me I was still in there. I don't know if it's still there now. You know, athletes nowadays are you know, it's a whole nother ball game, and they probably still don't even hold that record anymore. But you know, at one time, only 5-10 years ago, I was saying, man, your name is still up there, Rocky, for the most pull-ups ever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, well, damn, I didn't know. I knew at one time had the most pull-ups ever, and I had the most push-ups in one setting. But you know,
how much? How many pull-ups?
I think I did 22 pull-ups.
Okay.
At that time, you know, that was all the way down, all the way back up. It wasn't those little short ones. You had to go all the way back, you had to go full length and all the way back up. So, yeah, it was.
And so, how many hill sprints was your mark to when you knew you were ready?
If I ran from that bottom, I called that Mountain Mother. I ain't gonna get into what I have to call it, but
you can say it. You can say it.
When I got to Mountain Mother, I called it Mountain Mother. Okay, right by my house. It was probably 4 blocks from my house, 3 or 4 blocks from my house, and I go run that hill. But when I get that hill 5 times in a row, I knew I was in shape. I knew I was ready to go. Yeah.
And that area, it's, you know, it's for people who aren't from the Quad Cities, it's a nasty hill. And so you were sprinting up that. And like outside of the wrestling, what was your mom and dad like? And like, did you have brothers and sisters? Like, where'd you grow up at? What was your life like growing up?
I grew up right down the hill from the high school, 19th Avenue. I was only maybe less than a mile from the school. Had 2 brothers, 4 sisters. You know, mom and dad were together, still together. Where a lot of my friends didn't have that, you know. And dad worked at International Harvester. Mom worked at John Deere. You know, so we was the middle class. We wasn't low class or high class, middle class. But my dad was so militant, and so he made us think we were lower class because that's just how he was. You know, if you don't give him too much, they won't expect too much. That's just kind of how he was. But
how do you mean?
You know, if you give him too much, then they be expecting it. My dad gave us what we needed. You know, your shoes okay? You got any holes in your shoes? No, okay. You need a new pair of pants? Your coat fit? You know, if all that stuff was good, then we were good. He didn't want you to have no more than what you needed. You know, so that's kind of how my dad was. You know.
Got it.
You know, we other than some other friends, you know, we had nice cars. You know, so you know, we weren't hurting for anything.
And what was so that's kind of the foundation of where you grew up. You get to high school, your first year in as a sophomore, you make it to the state finals. When did the matchup with Steve Knight take place? That took place in my 8th grade year. Okay. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, like I said, I was undefeated my 7th grade year, my 8th grade year, and my 9th grade year. So I went to a tournament my 8th grade year, and it was a tournament at United Township High School. You know, just like I say, I never went far away.
Mm-hmm.
But at that tournament, you know, it was a decent Quad City tournament, and I think I wrestled 3 or 4 matches, and I made it to the finals, and I have this guy named Steve Knight from Clinton, Iowa, and go out, and he hits me with a headlock, and he pins me in like 15 seconds, and it was my very first time I ever lost, you know, since I started wrestling from the beginning, and I found out his name, and I wrote it down. So I got to find that guy. I'm going to wrestle him again. And then the next year, that same tournament, I go to there. He's there. We're in the same weight class. I wrestle him again. He did the same thing. Hit me with a headlock and beat me again.
Pin you?
So,
or did you get off?
He pinned me. Pinned me again. He pinned
back
me,
to back.
Yeah, 8th grade year, 9th grade year.
Okay.
Now at this time, I learned after this that Steve Knight is #1 in the country. No, he's #1 in the country from Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah.
#1 in the country. He traveled all over the country, wrestling. I didn't know nothing about any of that. All I know is I'm gonna find this guy, next time I wrestle him, I'm gonna beat him, But I really started getting better, started learning a little bit more about wrestling, but still only had a select few moves. But the moves I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. And one day, my sophomore year, after I took second, Steve Knight had won the state title in Iowa, and coach said, "Hey, I'm going to take a couple guys up to United Township tour. They having a practice up there, and invited a few people to come over." So I said, "Okay, coach, I'm going." So we went there. I walk in the room, and guess who's there? Steve Knight is there. And I was like, "Yo, that's Knight." And I walk up to him, I say, "Hey man, you remember me?" He was like, he didn't even remember who I really was at the beat, because he wrestled all the time. He wrestled so many different kids. And he said, I said, "We wrestle here at United." He said, "Oh yeah, I do remember you, Okay. I said, "Man, you gonna be here?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, man, let's get some matches to roll around in." So it was a bunch of us, and that day at that practice, I kicked his ass. I kicked his ass, and I got like 7, 6 takedowns. He got like maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we go into our junior year. Now I'm very well known for being from Illinois. He's very well known for being from Iowa, but he's still #1 in the country right now at this time. I'm not a real highly recruit at this point in time. I'm just a guy from Rock Island that took second in the state. Oh well. And so my junior year, I won the state title, and he wins his second state title. And then my senior year, I win the title, and he wins his title. And so I don't know freestyle, so I go to a freestyle camp. Well, no, go to the trials to freestyle state to qualify for the nationals.
Yeah.
And I qualified, but I still didn't know any freestyle. I just knew my coach was like, "Hey, you're so good on your feet. Take him down, hold him down till the referee take, let him up, let him back up, take him down again." At that time, you only got 1 point for a takedown.
Yeah.
It changed a little bit different. So I win the Illinois State, qualify, go to the nationals, and at that time it was Cedar Falls. It wasn't Fargo. It was Cedar Falls, Iowa then. Same tournament. They just changed the location as the year went by.
Okay.
And I get there, and it's like, shit, I think it was like 89 people in our bracket. It was a bunch. I wrestled at 123. I only weighed 123. I didn't cut any weight. Didn't cut any weight.
And you're not like drilling. You don't even know gut wrenches. You're just going out there and scrapping.
I don't know. I know they call them gut wrenches. I know what they call them, but I wasn't no good. I tried a few of them. I got a couple of leg laces, but I had a fireman's carry that was real good. So I was getting 4-point takedown, on my takedowns, or I catch somebody to fireman's and get a fall. But if it wasn't an outside single or double or a fireman's carry, those were my only takedowns. But nobody was taking me down. And so next thing you know, I look on the guy come to tell me, because I never looked at the boards to find out who you got next. I never, through high school and stuff, looked at the boards. I wouldn't pay attention to the boards. Guys would come and tell me. And they said, "Well, you got a guy named Steve Knight next." I said, you shitting me. They said, "No. Steve Knight from Iowa." I said, "Yeah, I know who he is." And so at this time, this is our senior year, Knight's going to Iowa. I'm supposed to be going to Iowa State with Harold Nichols. And but I had a low GPA coming out of high school, so I didn't get a chance to make that selection. So I run into Steve Knight at the tournament. He's #1 in the country. And I kicked his ass. Even in freestyle, not even knowing freestyle, I beat him. I beat him like, it wasn't even close. I think it was maybe 9-3, something like that. It was, freestyle match, and it was just, that's when coaches knew that I could tell the guys would come and talk to me, this and that, I was getting more coaches come from everywhere calling me. The letters started coming to Rock Island High School about me, so I knew once I beat him. But I ended up going on to get second in the nationals. And I don't even know if he placed or not. I think after I beat him, he was so upset that he didn't even place that year, or he got like 6 or 7.
And you got beat by Joe Melchiori in the finals, right?
Joe Melchiori caught me with a headlock in the final. Yes. Joe Melchiori from New Jersey. And don't get me wrong, Joe was tough. I'll give Joe his props. But that's what ended up happening in my high school career. Yeah.
So before we get to SIU, I wanted to ask you, I was looking back at the bracket from your junior year of high school. You only had 1 loss. Did you beat that guy in the state tournament that year, or did you never get that rematch?
I never got that rematch. That was one of those situations where he hit me with a hip toss, went to my back, but it's short time on the clock. So I'm just sitting there. I knew I wasn't pinned. I'm just waiting for the clock. I'm looking at the clock. Time is running down. All of a sudden, the referee just slapped the mat. Call me pinned. I was nowhere. The crowd went crazy. Other fans, people were crazy. Like, because I was, my elbow was down behind my back. I was so limber. Elbows behind my back. I'm bouncing on my elbow. You know, I'm just watching the clock, just like, okay, when I get up, I'm gonna get his ass. You know what I'm saying? I know, you know, I'm gonna get him. And they called the fall. You know, I had beat him earlier in the season, probably 14-3 or 4. You know, he wasn't no bad wrestler. He ended up placing in the state, but it was one of those bad calls. You know, referee make bad calls. That was one of them. You know, I don't know if they, you know, sometimes people gotta understand. Sometimes you get referees that are from a certain kid's location. You know, he may have been in their area refereeing it all year long. He knew him and didn't know me. And seen an opportunity for one of their kids to, you know, win a sectional championship. And he just smacked the mat, you know, but I was nowhere near pinned. Coach said it, everybody understand. The crowd went crazy. It was just, you know, one of those things. But
so it was sectional finals?
That was it with sectional finals. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know
sectional
that.
Finals.
So you had to come through the first round to even get back at the state tournament.
We back then we went district,
regional, sectional, state.
District, regional, sectional, sectional finals, That was my first loss of the year. Yeah.
Great. Did it rattle you at all going into state?
No, I wasn't. It didn't rattle me. Gerb was so good at preparing you for a match. You know, he was like, you know, there's no preparation for that match. He said that was a bad call on the referee. He said, you know, I took him down like 3 times in a row. Took him down 3 times in a row, let him up. Took him down, let him up. Took him down, and he caught me. Boom, went to my back. You know, so it wasn't like he was beating me from the jump. I was still up on the board when he took me down with that. I think it was maybe tied up because I took him down 3 times and let him up. Then he took me down for a 5-point takedown. So it might have been 1 or 2 points, you know, there in the match. But, you know, it's one of those situations. He was like, coach was like, you know, nothing we have to be prepared for. You know, he's nowhere on your level. We just go back to the drawing board and work on what we need to and get ready for next week. And we see him. If we don't, then don't worry about it. But I end up not seeing him. I end up not seeing him the next week. He got beat by somebody that I end up beating.
And when you say Gerb, you're talking about Walt Gerber, the legendary Rock Island coach. I've heard a lot of stories about him. What was it like wrestling for him though back in those days?
Coach Gerber. If it wasn't for Coach Gerber, I don't know where I'll be today. You know, he wasn't just my coach; he's my friend, my father. You know, even though I had a father, you know, he changed my life. You know, I'm from Rock Island, the west end of Rock Island. I did things we did down there. You know what I'm saying? I was involved in a lot of stuff that, you know, I shouldn't have been, you know, but I got stirred in the right direction by a guy that cared about me. That was Walt Gerber. He changed my life, you know, so it is what it is, but never forget him, you know. Like I said, we always remained great friends up until the time he passed. And I was there up to the day he passed away, you know, so we always stayed in contact. Me and his sons are brothers. We still stay in contact. You know, Miss Gerb, called her Mama Gerb. She was like a mother to me. You know, like I say, you know, I can say it. You know, he was one of the greatest guys I ever met. You know. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that he had that big of an impact on you.
No doubt. At that time, you know, me coming from the west end of town, you know, and don't get me wrong, I had white friends and I had black friends, but he was one of the guys that, you know, when you really, because we went through some things back then with the racism and stuff, you know, but he was one that really changed me on believing that, hey, everybody's not bad, you know. So don't go based on what you see or what happens to you. on your end of town. I know there's racist people out there, and I know people do certain things, you know, he said, but everybody's not like that. So I trusted in him, and he never steered me in the wrong direction.
And so talking about Coach Gerber, you know, after you had your senior year, you were Mr. Illinois, you know, outstanding wrestler for the whole state, which is, again, just incredible, because where we're from, it's not like Chicago. You know, we're from the 3 hours outside the big city. So for you to win Mr. Illinois Wrestler is awesome. You mentioned you didn't get into Iowa State because of the GPA. How did Walt Gerber help you get to SIU, and how did that come about?
Well, what happened was I had signed. I was supposed to go to North Idaho Junior College, and then transfer in after 2 years. Transfer into Iowa State.
Yep.
That's when Harold Nichols was the coach before he passed away, and that's what the plan was. And but during my Freestyle Nationals, I met Coach Larry Christoph. He was the Illinois coach, and so he was my coach during that 2 weeks that we were there camp. And he was talking to me the whole time, like, "Hey, you know, you need to come down and visit SIU, you know, and this and that." I said, "Dude, I've already signed, man. I'm going to North Idaho." He said, "Hey, that'll make a difference. Come down and see. If you like us, you know, then you can change, you can transfer." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if I can do that." So I really wasn't paying attention to him. But then he talked to my dad at that national tournament. My dad was down there. He talked to my dad, and my dad was like, "Hey, I talked to this coach in SIU. It's only 3 hours away from home." He said, let's just go down there and see the campus and check it out and see what you think. I'm like, "All right, Dad, we can go down there, but, you know, because I want to go to Iowa State, you know." Yeah. But we went down and got there and fell in love with the campus. You know, we weren't in dormitories. We were in apartments, you know, like on a lake, you know, a tower. We called it Tower Lake, you know, and all the guys were real cool, you know. Christoph sold me, you know. He was a good talker. He could talk. I mean, nobody could out-talk Larry Christoph. He was a former silver medalist in Olympics, you know, very well known coach around the world, you know. And told me he had some certain guys coming in there. We're gonna have a great program and this and that. You know, you can listen to the bullshit. I was all about listening to bullshit, but I was like, okay, this guy. But my dad liked it, and I did like it, you know. And a couple of guys I met seemed real cool. Had a guy by the name of Danny McGinnis. Rest in peace, Danny McGinnis. He was the Alderman. He got me down. He's one of the guys that come down there, and I was able to transfer out of Idaho and come to SIU because it was a D2 school. Yeah. Had it been a D1 school or another JUCO school, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But D2 had different rules. And it started a big controversy between Larry Christoph and Harold Nichols, man. It was all in the papers. It wasn't internet then. If it was internet, it would have blew up. But like I said, back then it was just in the papers, small papers. Everybody didn't see it, but the sports section of wrestling, everyone knew it. That Larry Christoph stole Harold Nichols, one of his wrestlers that was coming, you know, it was just a big thing at that point in time. You know, with nowadays it's been a whole lot bigger if it happened because of social media. But at that point in time, it was a little smaller. Plus, it was wrestling, so it wasn't as big. But yeah, it was a big thing. It was a big thing in the wrestling world. It really was.
And so you get down there, you see the campus. Coach Christoph has some good charisma. Did you ever actually go out to Idaho, or did you just decided? Oh, you did.
Went out there for a visit.
Gotcha.
First time ever flying in my life. Flew to Idaho. Got to Idaho and you know, a little small campus. You know, ain't no brothers and sisters in Idaho. I'm telling you, I was there for 3 days, didn't see no brothers and no sisters. I went rafting, I went fishing, I did things I had never did in my life, which wasn't a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about something different, you know? Yeah. But yeah, it was just a whole different atmosphere from what I was ever used to living in the West End of Rock Island. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Like I said, I went rafting, and I never know anything about rafting. You know, I didn't want to go rafting. You know, they had a whole thing lined up. So, but it was an experience. You know, it was an experience. You know, but it's kind of tough when you're young and you don't see your own people. You know, being that far away from home, because I wasn't gonna be able to get home, but only for Christmas and spring break. So it's only gonna be twice a year. I was gonna be able to get home. You know, so it was one of those things when I did sit down and think about what I wanted to do on my change to SIU. I I think I made the right decision.
Yeah,
I really
no doubt. I mean, think about, it's different now when, kids are flying all the time and they've been all over, but if you've never really been anywhere outside the, the Quad Cities or, Iowa, Illinois, to live out there that long would be a big change.
Oh yeah, it would have been different. Like I said, and don't get me wrong, I've been other places. Like we travel to Tennessee every year, been to Kentucky, been to Indiana. I've had a few other uncles and aunts that are in different places we go visit, but nothing like Idaho. You know what I'm saying? That was a whole new ball game there. But when I made the decision to go to SIU, and plus, like at that point in time, SIU, we're a Division II school. We wrestled a lot of Division I competition. Now we could still. I wrestled Iowa. I wrestled Iowa State. I wrestled Oklahoma State. I wrestled Illinois, Northern Illinois, Western Illinois, Eastern. We wrestled all those schools, being a Division II schools, and so I had Division I competition. So that was a good thing I liked about it.
Yeah, I was looking at your guys' schedule from those days. One year you guys opened with Oklahoma State and then Oklahoma, like back to back, and so you get to your. And then back then, everyone knows Division II could wrestle up at Division I's, and we'll get to that. But I got to know though. So when you get down to SIU, you guys won 3 team titles when you were there, but had they won anything as a team before you got there?
No, that was the first championship. The year I got to my freshman year, first championship. I think they had got a third was the best they got at that time.
Okay,
I think it was third was the best. Had some decent programs. They were always in the top 5, top 10, but never a title.
And so your freshman year, you're in there battling. Did you ever have any self-doubts that you had to overcome since it was your first year in college, or you kind of talk us through your freshman year?
My freshman year was like, I've always been a confident person, you know what I'm saying? And they were like, we had a guy on our team that was from the Quad City. His name was Ray Garcia. He was a senior. He was getting ready to graduate. He had some certain classes he had to take. And the first time we had a wrestle off, he beat me in the wrestle off.
Wow.
And so he was going to be the starter. And then we went to we had an open tournament. At that open tournament, you could go to fresh soft division or you can go to the varsity senior division. I said, no, I'm going to senior division. I ain't going to fresh soft division. So I went to senior division and I ended up getting second in that tournament. He didn't place. So Larry was like, hey, you're going to be our starter. He didn't place, you placed. Now he's like, and then so we had to wrestle off again. The next time we wrestled off, I beat him, and then after that, Larry said no more wrestle offs, because he knew he wanted me to be the starting 18 pounder. So I think the guy should have had another chance, but I don't make decisions, so it was what it was. But at that point, by that time, like at the beginning of the season, he just had the senior experience and knew, I don't wrestle in matches in real matches like I do in practice. Practice is like practice, don't get me wrong, and I don't put forth the effort as I do in real matches like I do in the practice room. So I think that's kind of where he got the win from. But he did win the match. So
how did the college workouts in the workload compare to what you were doing in high school?
They were similar to what I was doing, but I always worked hard. I did most of my stuff on my own, extra. I did most of my stuff was my extra on my own, regardless if I ran to practice, get a workout before practice. Then after practice, I do my own workout. So I always push myself, like maybe after practice, running some stairs. I always ran stairs, find me some stairs, run some stairs, or maybe ride a bike for a half an hour, 45 minutes, or maybe an hour, depends on how much weight I had to lose, or just jump roping for a certain amount of time, or just being in the room and finding somebody that would stay over and drill me a little bit more, So I always did my extra effort behind the practice. But, it was definitely different practice from being in high school than being in college. Definitely different. But we did have hard practices at Rock Island High School. We did. We worked hard.
But I didn't know you were doing all that extra stuff. That's probably where a lot of the confidence comes from. Were you one of those guys who would think about matches when you were working out?
Oh, definitely. I was one of those guys that I didn't want to lose a match because I was tired. Got beat because you dominate the first period, second period, you lose the third period because you ran out of gas. I wasn't that person. and I didn't want to be that person. I've seen a lot of guys wrestle and like, yo, man, that kid's tough the first 2 periods, but he can't go 3 periods. He can't go 6 minutes, 7 minutes. So I didn't want to be that person. That's why I always did the extra things.
And then talk us through your first national title. Like, what memories do you have of that?
The guy that I wrestled, he was his name was Chucky. When I got to the finals, you know, his name was Chucky Kennedy from New York. He was at wrestled Morgan State. He was a bodybuilder, weightlifter. He was the strongest guy to this day I probably ever wrestled in my life. I mean, and he was, but the thing was, in the sauna, he was talking shit. Oh, this is my tournament, you know, this is my match, because we both were overweight, you know, we had to lose some weight to lose. And he was talking like I wasn't there, you know, I'm sitting there, but I ain't saying nothing back to him. But what he failed to realize was I'm from the west end of Rock Island, you know what I'm saying? he wasn't dealing with no punk, you know what I'm saying? He had to show me, you know, you ain't just gonna talk me and talk tough to me and thinking you're just gonna win the match, you know. No. I'm from where he's from. He's just New York, but I'm Rock Island, west end of Rock Island. So, you know, I wasn't listen to all that talk that he was doing. I was about show me, you know. So and like I said, I remember that match when I first walked up there and we hooked up. He grabbed me. He was so strong, dude. I was like, oh shit. So I had to fade back to what Gerb always said. And Gerb always said, speed kills strength. Speed kills strength. And that was just in my head the whole time. So I backed away, and if you look at that match, I never really tied up with him anymore after that, you know, until I seen him start getting tired. Then I started tying up a little bit more, but he was off balance all the time then. And I knew after I got that first takedown and I rolled him out, I knew he wasn't going to win. He wasn't going to win. Because I knew I was in shape. I was ready to go.
But he felt like that, though, huh? You locked up and you're like...
Oh, yeah, I knew. Don't stay out of tie-ups. Stay out of tie-ups. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. He was just one of the strongest kids I ever wrestled my weight ever.
Did he know that he was going to wrestle you when you were in the sauna, or was he kind of like ignoring?
Oh, he knew. He was trying to intimidate me.
Okay.
He knew who I was. Oh, yeah. He knew exactly who I was. He was trying to intimidate me, you know. But that wasn't. He was talking to the wrong one, you know. There was a few other guys in there, you know.
Yeah, I love it.
It was just, yeah, you know. But yeah, it is what it is, you know. But like I say, when it's all said and done, you know, I was standing at the top of the podium, so you know, and he didn't have much to say after that. You know? I think he told me one time. He said, "You got lucky." I said, "Yeah, okay. Next time I see you, it'll be worse than that." I said, "That was my first time wrestling. If I wrestle you again, it'll be worse than that." You know. So I said,
did you ever wrestle him again after that, or no?
Never wrestle him again. Never wrestle him again. Never even seen him again. Yeah.
So, and for everyone who's listening to this podcast, you know, I'll say in the intro, like, you know, that you were the first 4-timer ever, so everyone knows that. But, you know, when did you realize that you had a chance to be like the first 4-time national champ? Was it that first one, or was it a couple more down the road?
No, well, it was. They said something about it, you know. And, you know, the thing about it was a lot of people get misconstrued us. I'm not only the first person to ever win the division. I was the first person ever to win 4 NCAA titles in any sport, any division. You know,
wow.
So
I didn't know that. I thought it was just wrestling.
It had never been done. It had never been done in the history that 4 titles, any sports, any division, and I never had a red shirt year.
Woo!
You know, I never had a red shirt year. So some things they can take from me, but you know, like now a lot of times they say first they always mention Pat Smith. No, he wasn't the first one. They say first one. He's the first one to win the Division I tournament, but still, wrestling one of the oldest sports in the history of sports, you know, and for me to be the very first one ever in any sport in division, you know, you can't take that from me. I'm not gonna let nobody take that from me, because like I said, out of all those years wrestling has been around, I was the first one to ever do it in any sport, including wrestling. You know, wrestling won, but any sport.
No person.
Any sport, any division. Yeah.
Amazing. So when did it like set in that you're on this collision course for history? Was it like your junior year?
Well, I guess it came after after my junior year. I'd won 3 titles, and they was like, you know, hey, you know, my coach came in one day. It's like, hey, you know, there's never been a 4-time national champ. And I was like, what? He's like, there's never been a 4-time national champ. You win it, you'll be the first one ever to win 4 titles, you know? And I was like, wow, you know, he's like, he said, what do you think? I said, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, you know? And at that time, you know, that was my senior year. I was ranked number 1 in Division I and Division II at that time. I was at 126 and I was ranked number one at 126 Division I and 126 Division II. So I was having a good year, a good year, and decided to, because we were trying to win our fourth straight team title. I put forth the effort to cut down to 118 one more time to make our team stronger, bringing our 26-pounder in there. That was a backup guy from behind me, thinking he would place in the top 4, top 5, and get some more team points so we could win 4 titles. So I sacrificed for my team to cut down there when I really wanted to stay at 26 all year long. But
how hard was that cut?
It was tough. It was tough.
Like a 140 to 118, like 135 down?
Probably about a 140.
Oof.
At that time, yes, I got about by senior year. Oh, yeah, every bit of 140. Yeah,
Man.
it was some dieting. It was some dieting and watching what you eat, and there was a lot of things like that. Getting down to a certain, and then not going over that weight. Definitely. It's
cool that Coach Christoph had that kind of buy-in, though, where you guys were all in for it. I mean, to win 4 team titles would have been awesome too. End up getting second your senior year as a team, but then you won 4. I mean, that's got to be one of the most cherished memories of your life, winning that 4th title. Do people ask you about it often?
Oh yeah, years ago they did. I'm much older now, and a lot of people don't even really know that the kids nowadays, the kids I coach and deal with now, they come to my program. They don't really know much about it, But I give them my history to let them know who can coach you, because how can I be coaching you not know who I am and what I've done? So I give them all that. But, some of them know, the older ones know, understand it more than the younger ones do, But I really don't coach kids under 8 years old. My son Brandon does, but I don't. They're 8 years old. By that time, they were able to make their own decision if they really want to do this, or they're doing it because their parents making them do it. So that's a little different, how I do things. I'm mostly like, if they're over 8 years old, I don't mind dealing with them, because that's when I don't do play. If you're here to wrestle, I'm gonna really show you how to wrestle. As far as that playing around and playing grandmas, I don't do that. I ain't got time for it. Yeah.
All business. I got a couple of questions for you, Mr. Wright, then we'll let you go, sir. I always like to ask, champions this question. What did you do the night after your 4th title? You remember?
The night after my 4th title. Yes, I remember clearly. Went back to my back to my room, showered, with everything, and had some family there that was in town, because my 4th title was at my school. They had it at my school.
Oh wow!
So I was home. I was at home for my 4th title, which was another blessing, And first time they'd ever had a hosted a tournament that big in that area, hosted a national title in any sport, And so I had family there, and then the wrestlers had a party, So but yeah, I partied a little bit, and enjoyed the family, but nothing crazy. Just had a good time and enjoyed the victory, and that's pretty much what it was.
Next question, and this is hotly debated where I grew up. Did Iowa and Dan Gable ever recruit you? And if not, how come? Because everyone has that question growing up.
Dan Gable never recruited me.
There it is.
Mark Johnson was Dan Gable's assistant. Mark Johnson was from Alleman,
right?
Was a state champion,
right?
And Mark Johnson and I were good, but we were friends. I met Mark Johnson when I was younger, and he tried to get Gable to recruit me. Gable wouldn't recruit me. He wanted Steve Knight, and that's where Steve Knight ended up going.
But then he transferred not long after that.
Yeah, he
transferred to Iowa State, which is crazy because you were going to go to Iowa State.
Yeah, I was going to go to Iowa State. So if I had transferred over there, I'd have been there. I would have been there when he was there, But once he got over there, it was a whole nother ball game, But yeah, that's what happened. Gable wouldn't recruit me, wouldn't look at me. He had his mind set on who he wanted, But there were so many stories behind that I don't want to really get into,
sure.
Why he didn't, and why there's not a whole lot of African American on Iowa's program, even right now, I don't think there's any on the team,
Right.
And it's not a talent, So, but I don't get into that because it don't bother me one way or another. It wasn't gonna make me, it wasn't gonna make a difference in anything I did anyway, whether I was there or not, But that's truly what happened.
And Mark Johnson, another legend from the QC.
Exactly.
He's an awesome guy. Huge
Awesome
Mark
dude.
Johnson fan.
Yes.
What he did with Illinois was great. I'm excited to see who Illinois hires because Mark Johnson really created that program in the 90s. So.
No doubt. You're right. Correct.
Last question, Mr. Wright. We ask everyone this. The name of the podcast is the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. So the question to you, sir, how did wrestling change your life?
I'm from the west end of Rock Island, Illinois. Everybody don't know where Rock Island is, but Rock Island is on the board right there. It's the Quad Cities. There's Moline, East Moline, Rock Island. Across the river is Bettendorf, Davenport, Pleasant Valley. I mean, it's the Quad Cities, and Rock Island is the rough part of the Quad Cities. And the West End is the rough part of what it is. And that's where I was, and that's where I was raised at. And that's where I come from. That's where I got my heart from. And it was who I am, and it's some good things I can say about it, some bad things I can say about what I've done and what I did. And but I'm 56 years old now, and I've survived it, and I'm living a different life now. So I wouldn't change anything at all about where I come from and the things I did in the past and things I'm doing now. So home is home, and I love home.
And wrestling kind of brought you from there to where you're at now, would you say?
Definitely. If it wasn't for wrestling, I don't know where I'd be. Either in jail or dead. To be honest.
Wow.
I'm from the streets of Rock Island. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I mean, wrestling definitely changed my life.
Love it. Tim Wright, I've been wanting to have this conversation forever. I'm a big Illinois guy and had a bunch of people on this podcast, but this was one I've had circled for a long time. I really appreciate you making some time for us, man.
No problem, man. I appreciate you giving me a call, and I'm glad you enjoyed our time together, man. I appreciate it. Good luck to you and your podcast, man.
Thank you, and shout out to Brandon Wright for making this happen, man. He
called me. He called me and said, "Hey, Pop, this guy has been trying to get in touch with you. He had a podcast called Wrestling Changed My Life. He's trying to get in touch with you." I said, "Yeah, I've been getting a phone number, but I don't know who." He said, "Pop, answer it." That's when I did. It was you. So glad I did.
I was getting screened. I was getting blocked.
No, I'm that kind of person. If I don't know who it is, I don't want to be bothered. I'm like that.
I hear you, my man. Well, I hope to sync up again soon. Tim Wright, you're the man. Have a great day.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
And that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening to Wrestling Changed My Life, presented by Spartan Combat. To see video clips of this interview, go to Instagram at Wrestling Changed My Life or Twitter at Wrestling Changed My Life. We also have a YouTube channel, and all past episodes can be found at WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. Peace!